Hey everyone, welcome to Cybersecurity Today. Today, we're diving into a topic that hits close to home, quite literally. We're talking about the security risks lurking in our smart toys and tech filled homes. From talking dolls to cameras that keep an eye on everything, our devices are getting smarter every day. But with great tech comes, well, great responsibility. Our devices are getting smarter every day, and then that obviously brings up a lot of questions. So to help us break it down, we've got Tasneem Husain here, our resident cybersecurity expert who knows this stuff inside out. So Tasneem, thanks so much for being here.
Hi, Taha. Thank you for having me. And I am excited about today's topic because being a parent myself, this is really close to my heart.
Absolutely. To start, can you explain what parents need to know about smart toys and what makes them so risky?
Sure. Let me first explain what smart toys are. Smart toys are toys that connect to internet, via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. They're designed to interact with kids. Um, Kids learn from them. Basically, these toys store data, while they interact with kids. So, like any internet connected devices, they can be vulnerable to hacking. Some smart toys, like I said, record audio, they connect to apps, or they even store personal information. And this can be exploited by hackers to get access into devices that aren't properly secured and are on the same network as these toys.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say from personal experience, our homes are packed with these sort of smart gadgets and toys. Um, so why do you think that we're getting like this sudden surge of like so much new smart technology showing up in our homes?
Well, it's really about convenience and fun, right? We've got toys now that can talk, and respond to kids. Just like we have fridges that remind us when we're low on groceries, and even smart locks that let us control access remotely. So, all of these devices are designed to make life easier, more efficient, and often more enjoyable. So, as parents, we especially love these toys because they are interactive and can keep our kids entertained. And they sometimes even can do a better job than we can when it comes to teaching them various learnings. So, while these devices are really, they make our lives convenient, these gadgets can also bring risks. So basically, like you said earlier, they are getting smarter. But with that comes, new types of risks that may not, that we may not have thought about before setting them up.
Yeah, totally. I think like a lot of us, the normal people, we think that these devices, since they're out in the market, they're completely safe to use. Like for example, when you get medications, they undergo like a lot of testing before they're like released. So like I guess what we think, the normal people, is that like since these devices are out in the market, they must have been like thoroughly tested. But when it comes to cybersecurity, like how do these gadgets differ in terms of like safety and security compared to like stuff like phones and laptops which are used like everywhere?
No, that's a great question. So, unlike phones or laptops, which are usually built with layers of security, many smart devices, like smaller smart devices or newer smart devices, um, one of them being kids' toys, focus mainly on functionality. Most of these gadgets are designed to perform a specific task. And unfortunately, security is often an afterthought. So, um, for example, they may not have very strong encryption algorithms, or they're not good about releasing regular updates or even basic security protocols in some cases. Think of these devices as open doors on your network. If they're not set up correctly, if they're not, secure, then yes, they are convenient, but sometimes that convenience can open up a backdoor into your home. So be very careful when you're setting up these devices on your home network.
That's a great analogy. It's almost like these devices are giving us the convenience, but it does cost our privacy and security unless like we take certain steps and be more careful. So let's dive into the risks. What are some of the specific cybersecurity concerns that we should keep when using like these toys, these smart toys?
Sure. The first one that comes to my mind is data. There's just so much data that's being collected these days. So to me, data collection is a major one out of all the others. Many smart toys are designed to interact with kids. So basically, these toys record while they're interactive or while they're interacting with kids, they record their voices. They may even record location data or other personal information, like their preferences on um, TV shows or, colors or just small, very small, you know, you may think insignificant information, but when it's put together, it really creates a profile for that child. So if this data isn't properly encrypted, for instance, it's vulnerable to anyone who knows how to access it. Then there's this issue of weak passwords. And, we've talked
We've
about
talked
weak
about it, yeah.
passwords in every single episode, but I just can't stress that enough. So, these weak passwords, if you are, setting these devices up with weak passwords, you are leaving a very big, taking a very big security risk there. Another one is regular updates. Be good about updating, be it your toys, be it any device, smart devices. Be good about regularly updating them, because very often, um, there are security updates that are being released that can protect you. And then the fact that many of these devices are always on, um, they make, keeping them always on makes them easy target for hackers. So another concern is the actual app you use to control these devices. Often it's not just the device itself, but the software that connects to it. The software that runs the actual device, that can be vulnerable. And so it's very important to make sure you secure the software.
And this is just not for toys, right? This is like for stuff like your ring or your thermostat and stuff like that, right? I'm assuming. Same thing
Yes,
applies.
all,
Okay.
yeah, all your smart devices, not just the toys, but any smart device that you're using at home. So, like you said, locks, cameras, thermostat, any of those. I have one for my sprinkler. So
Mm-hmm.
all of these devices are on your home network. So exactly, and you know what? The risk here is if they're all on a single network, your phones and your laptops and your smart devices, if they're all on the same network, then any device that's weaker, and it's compromised, a hacker can gain access through that device to any other device on your network.
Oh wow.
So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just amazed. Like, I know we've talked about it in the past, but like this kind of hits home because like at my place we have everything. We have a ring, we have a sprinkler system, we have my dad just got a new Google Home device. I'm assuming cybersecurity was not kept in mind when actually making it. It was more about functionality, but it's crazy to think that like a hacker can just hack into some Google Home and then just I guess hijack the entire network and then have access to like stuff like our laptops or our phones where we might have like confidential information stored. But It's a
No, no, no. That's I totally agree with you. You know, we don't realize these days as we get new smart devices, we just keep adding them to our network. And it's just some do have very strong protection, but others may not. Or we may, like laptops and our phones, we're very good about updating them when updates come out. They're very good about prompting you when updates come out. But sometimes some of the other, less used devices, we may not be aware. We have to actually go in and check for the updates. So, and that's where the risk comes. Sometimes you miss it because you haven't been checking them.
All right. Okay. Let's get a little technical. How do these hackers actually get into these devices, and what's their goal? Because these devices aren't like your typical like phone or whatever, right? Like I can understand like a hacker getting into your phone and messing stuff around in the settings or like getting access to the network, but like these devices they don't have like a keyboard or a mouse or something like that, anything to interact with. So how do they get into these devices?
That's a brilliant question. Yes, so there are a few ways they can get in. So a lot of it starts with weak or default password like admin or password 123. A lot of these, well, most of these devices come with a default password. And then when you set it up, the first time you're required to change password. So what if somebody doesn't change the password and leave that? They're just giving it away very easily. So if somebody hacks in, those are the passwords they will first try for. Um, Another one is, if your data that you're transmitting is unencrypted, it can be intercepted. Once they are into your network, once the hackers are in your network, if there is any unencrypted data that's being transmitted, they can intercept, they can read the messages, and they can get more information based on those messages. Sometimes they use a technique called botnet, which is a network of compromised devices. This allows them to launch attacks on your systems. And there's also a new trend of targeting mobile apps. Basically, what this does is this allows them to gain control of your mobile apps. So, for example, if an app has a weak security, hackers can gain control of your device through that app. They can gain control of your contacts or your emails, whatever they can get into easily. They will break in and get as much data, as much information they can collect about you.
So they're basically just looking for like a door that's like even slightly cracked open, right? And then they'll just like basically invade your entire system. Could you give us an example of, I guess, how it would look like? I know you mentioned the botnet thing, but any like typical example that we may be able to see, like if a hacker's like hijacked our system?
Sure, I like your analogy of slightly open door, but yes. So let me give you an example of something we're talking about today. Kids' smart toys. These toys are connected to the home network, for instance, via Wi-Fi. And if the software on the toy hasn't been updated in a while, if the toy is compromised, it's basically leaving an open window, or like you said, slightly open window. And a hacker can crawl in through that weak point and move through your network. They could potentially even get access to your smart TV or your computer or your security cameras, whatever the other devices you have on the network, they can break into. And once they're in, they can monitor activity, access personal information, or even control other devices, in your home. So while it sounds extreme, these type of hacks do happen. Um, and so I just, like I don't want to scare anybody, but I just want to warn you, be careful and keep, your eyes open to
Yeah,
these things.
that's definitely eye opening. Um, Like, so these like little toys and devices, they seem pretty harmless at first, but they have a risk of opening up big vulnerabilities that you may not even expect in your system. So yeah, thank you so much for like going into it. Um, let's talk a little bit about solutions. We've scared our listeners. Now let's provide some solutions for them. What are some practical steps that our listeners can take to keep our home safe from these type of threats?
Well, the good news is there are some simple, very simple steps you can take right away. So, first, make sure that you update your device's software. Like I said, all your smart devices have software that it runs on. So, make sure you're updating the software or even, firmware regularly. These updates often contain security patches, like I mentioned before. So it's super important to update immediately when the new updates come out. Second, change the default passwords on your devices. Use something unique and strong for your passwords. Um, a third would be, enable two-factor
Yeah.
authentication
I was
wherever
about to
possible.
mention that. Yeah, we've talked a
We've talked
lot
about
about
this before.
2FA. Yeah, that's 2FA or MFA. Always had
Yes.
that. I've like recently on one of my devices, I think I actually enabled two-factor authentication thinking about cybersecurity this podcast. So, yeah, it does help, and it's pretty easy to enable. I can attest to it.
Yep.
But
Yep. It is. It is. It's not very hard.
yeah, that's some great advice. I know we've talked about this in our previous podcasts, but what about our home Wi-Fi? Is there anything we can do to like add an extra layer of protection? Because we did talk about how if a hacker gets into these like toys and stuff, they can access our Wi-Fi network, and then that's how they like take over our entire system. Is there anything we can do to like add an extra layer of protection?
Sure. Yes, you can. So, one very important thing to secure your home Wi-Fi is to set up again, strong, unique Wi-Fi password if possible. Create a separate network just for your smart devices. Do not have a single network where you are setting up all your devices. Keep your a phone, keep your laptop, all of those on a separate network, and keep your smart devices on a separate network. So just in case one device gets compromised, you have separate networks um, that are that can prevent additional um, break in into more sensitive devices that are connected on that router.
All right. Okay. So suppose like I've taken all these steps, secured my home Wi-Fi, and I've enabled 2FA. Um, what should I be looking for, like when I'm monitoring these devices? Like, is there anything I can do, or like our listeners can do, when they start to notice strange activity on their monitoring apps or something like that?
Definitely. Many routers and home security apps can alert you to unusual activity. So, for instance, if a toy or a device is active when it shouldn't be, or if you see strange traffic on your network, um, if you set up alerts, it will alert you. If you set certain thresholds for alerts, if if for example a toy is sharing data, or somebody's trying to get into that toy or one of the other smart devices, it will send alerts to you. However you set alerts, message, email, whatever it is, it will alert you. So it's a good idea to investigate when you get alerts.
Okay.
And don't forget, less is more here. So when it comes to personal information, only provide the bare minimum that you need to. So think when you're being asked questions to provide personal information, think, take your time, and reason with whatever is being asked. Why is it asking you for some information?
So like
Is
think
it really
twice
needing that?
before you.
Right. Is it really needing that information to set up that device?
Mhm.
If you think it doesn't, don't provide that information. Um, one of the analogies I can think of is share your house keys, or we usually share our house keys with people we absolutely trust, right? We don't share our house keys with anybody and everybody that asks for it. So use that principle, I guess, about sharing information when you're setting up devices.
So it's something like treating our networks like little digital neighborhoods, right? And we always want like we want to lock our doors and make sure no intruders get in, right? And obviously keep an eye out. That's some excellent advice. Okay, let's shift a little bit and talk about general online safety for kids. Because with these smart toys and these smart gadgets, they're being exposed to this tech world um, at a very fast pace. So, in this digital age, how can parents help their children understand the importance of online safety? Because I, for one, I didn't really have that talk with my parents. I just kind of had to learn it on my own. So, well, what's some tips you can give to parents who want to discuss this topic with their children?
Absolutely. As a parent myself, I would advise to start out with open communication. Talk to your kids about internet and explain why certain rules are important. Make sure they understand the concept of privacy. A lot of times, we're using these devices, we're using these gadgets so much now that sometimes we don't even stop and think whether kids understand it or not. How much do they really understand? How much of when it comes to your privacy, when it comes to your security, how much of a perspective or knowledge do kids have? Just because they've been using it since they came in this world doesn't mean they know all about it, right? So, explain to them the concept of privacy, and tell them just because they're online and just because they see something, it doesn't make it safe. It doesn't make it safe to share everything with them. Teach them not to give out personal information like their full name, address, or school, or or whatever, about their parents or siblings. They should, if somebody is trying to reach out and ask them about this information, they should always let their parents know. So just general safety, but then same principles of general safety apply to online safety as well. And it's also a good practice to set boundaries. So explain to your kids which sites are safe, which apps are safe, and what is appropriate. Because that word appropriate, they may not have that context, right? They may not understand what that means. And also establish rules around what they can and cannot do online.
Oh, that's great advice. When you're talking about sharing or like kids not sharing personal information, the one thing I could think about was like this joke I saw that like kids would like ask or like Google how can I get like this resource in a game, for example, and then like the comment is like, oh, just share your mom's credit card information and I can get it to you. That's a joke I can think about. But it is scary because that happens. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Having these open discussions can make a huge difference. But what about social media? Because these kids are getting older and they're going on Instagram, TikTok, and stuff like that, X or Twitter. Do you have any tips for parents with preteens or like teenagers and like how they should go about explaining privacy to them and cybersecurity?
Yes, yes, I do. For teens, I would say, it's very important to teach them about responsible social media habits. So these teens may be aware of, security and privacy aspects already. They may understand what to do, what not to do, what to share, what not to share. But then, some of the basic social media habits and etiquettes are very important, and it's worthwhile to remind them over and over. Encourage them to set their accounts as private. Limit friend requests to people they know, and avoid oversharing. Again, this applies to all of us adults as well. Sometimes we do not realize um, what is too much. We're asked questions and we give information, and before we realize, we've overshared. So this is not just for teens or young kids, this is for everybody. Avoid oversharing. Remind your teens or preteens that once something is posted online, it's hard to delete. The footprint will stay somewhere. So be very careful what you post online. Also encourage them to think before posting. I personally follow this 5-second rule in everything I do, and I've taught the same to my kids. And this applies to anything from shopping to crossing the street to anything you do. Sometimes we do things in the moment without realizing the consequences. So if we were to stop even for 5 seconds and think for only 5 seconds what we are really doing, that could change the outcome, because we would then realize, hey, why am I doing this? Or why is somebody asking me this? Should I be providing this information? And that little moment is enough to protect you. So my advice, to sum it all up, my advice to teenagers would be to always consider before posting anything on social media. If they are whether, if whatever they're posting, would they be comfortable seeing the content with their parent or sibling? If they are, then yeah, then it's safe. But if they are not, if they have doubt, then hold off, think through before you post. So I think that is the main message I want to give to young adults. Think what you're posting on social media. Additionally, I also want to kind of include this to be aware online, with online interactions. You know, if
Cyberbullying,
you,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
because sometimes, again, they're still even teenagers are still young. So if you think something is not right, cyberbullying, online predators are reaching out to you, or any scams that you see on the social media, these are warning signs. So reach out to an adult, a responsible adult, or your parents. Let somebody know, talk to somebody. Don't keep it to yourself. See what they think about it, because they may be able to advise you. So
Yeah, those are some great
yeah,
insights, honestly.
yeah, open
Yeah.
conversation is very, very important here, Taha.
Yeah, and if our listeners want more information about social media safety, please check out our previous podcast where we delve into the topic. We go quite deep into it, and like we talk about social media and its associated cyber security risks. So I would advise you guys to look into that. Um, Tasneem, thank you so much for sharing your expertise today. It's been a real eye opener. Do you have any last thoughts for our listeners before we depart?
Sure. Just remember, while smart tech can really improve our lives, they can make our lives more efficient. A little caution goes a long way. Take the small steps that I mentioned to secure your devices. Stay away from any new features. No, stay.
Stay aware of any new features. Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, and don't forget, cybersecurity doesn't have to be overwhelming. It's all about building a few good habits that can make a difference.
Well, yeah, that's perfectly said. Thank you so much, Asim. And to everyone listening, we hope you feel ready to make some of those small changes that can make your home smarter and safer. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is going to be our last episode of our mini series regarding cybersecurity today. And please keep a lookout for additional podcasts and webinars. Those might be associated with different series, but thank you so much for sticking with this journey. And I would advise you guys to look at our other podcasts. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.